Today, I'm joined by Scott AI from a partner of ours called Workrr. Now, Scott's got a digital marketing agency and he helps clients leverage voice AI in their businesses. So we thought it'd be good to bring him on for a conversation around how exactly he's using SynthFlow and combined with automation tools and CRMs like Go High Level to bring success to his clients. Now, we talk about his processes and also where he sees this space going. Scott's been in the voice space since 2020, before the latest batch of AI voice solutions came out. So he's really knowledgeable about how to best succeed in this space. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Okay, so I guess we can kick things off. Scott, do you want to start with doing a bit of an intro about yourself and about Workrr? We can just run through some bit of backstory and how you got here, etc.
Yeah, sounds good. So back in about 2010, I got into the automation space. Kind of quickly started building out custom CRM solutions for enterprise clients. Kind of quickly found right around 2020 the real missing piece to the puzzle to fully automate an entire role within an organization was, the ability to make calls, receive calls. So around 2020, started building voice bots. So the ones that you actually had to program, 50 ways just to be able to pick up what somebody's saying. One thing, like, if somebody's trying to say no, there's like 50 ways somebody could say no. And you had to go in and actually program each way. And there's so many different directions. I mean, the implementation process was a nightmare. It took weeks to do, tons of testing, tons of adjusting. So obviously, once voice AI came out, it really kind of changed things up for us a little bit. We were one of the first ones using one of the first platforms that came out, and quickly started realizing that, it's just a lot more to this than what a lot of these companies were really saying. Like, hey, you just come in, plug in a script and make 1,000 phone calls and make $1 million, right? So,
100%.
we started going in and, putting in a lot of integration. So we integrated, basically created an omni-channel solution where it has text messages, emails, phone calls, and where the AI could recognize, what's being said across all channels. With that, we started having a lot of the newer AI agencies that came into the space, kind of reaching out to us, figuring out what we're doing. So once we kind of started consulting with a lot of the agencies, started helping them out. We ended up rebranding because our name was Beyond Orbit at first. Ended up building an agency solution to automate the onboarding process for agencies. And that's when we ended up shifting over and rebranding over to Workrr after we joined SynthFlow.
Nice. So what were you using back in 2020 when that was pretty early for voice bots? Was that back in the days where everything was kind of robotic, or how did they actually perform back in the day?
They didn't perform that great. You knew that it was a robot, that's for sure. I think there was maybe like 5 or 6 voices on Google or something that you were able to use. It was a nightmare, man.
No way. Were you always using it in for marketing purposes? Were you doing consulting? How are you kind of structuring your offering back then?
Yeah, it was because we were into building custom CRM solutions. So we'd go in and automate people's business processes within their CRM systems. And we actually got into, before the voice bots, we were actually able to start automating and programming some chatbot type style text messages and emails. So we were kind of already doing that a little bit before we started getting into the voice bot space. But then we started including that piece because we realized that, the real missing piece to the puzzle there was being able to make those phone calls, being able to accept inbound calls and perform actions with that. So that's when we started looking out for solutions and ended up coming across a couple and kind of hard coding these bots or chat bots just with a voice. So.
Got it. I mean, you were using chatbots too. Have you done the whole coming from programmatic voice to chatbots through like a voice flow type solution? And then have you done the whole suite, or is it now niching down into voice through SynthFlow specifically?
Yeah, I mean, we do voice, text, and email. That's kind of the thing that we do, omni-channel approach, because it does to replace a human. A human just doesn't make phone calls. A human doesn't just accept inbound calls. They also send text messages. They send emails. They change stages. They perform actions. And really, if your whole goal is to replace a human role, you're going to need more than just a phone call. And that's kind of what we focus on. The chatbots, I'm not a huge fan of having a chatbot on, like a website. I'd prefer to actually collect the person's information and then be able to nurture them via text, email, and phone calls. But we do have options that we do work with some clients that have the chat feature on a website.
Got it. And how did you find Synthflow?
You know what? It was the failing of another company. I'm not going to
Let me
mention
guess.
any names.
Air AI.
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you what. Without them, I know that I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
They
We
were
did.
early, weren't they? They were quite early. They moved fast,
Yep.
and yeah, I think this everyone's story is a story, but they were innovating pretty quickly. So yeah, all credit to them.
Yeah, and you know what, the owners, man, they are great people. There's just it's a fast moving space, a lot of changes, a lot of competitors coming to the space. Great people, man. It's just I had to make a change, and I think the biggest thing for me was isolating the agents. Back then, I don't know how it is now. I haven't used them since then, but you had one calendar you could hook up for your entire account. You had one phone number that the AI would call from, right? They were never isolated. You had one webhook you could send post call information to. So that's really what caught my eye with Synthflow, is everything was isolated. Each agent had their own phone number, had their own webhooks, had your own ability to send live transfers to. There was they were just so isolated, which when you're using different use cases or running different campaigns, you really need to have those different phone numbers, those different calendars. So that's really what drew me to Synthflow, and then hopping on a webinar with them, you could really tell that the co-founders are real good people, and Alex, he sold me, man. Great guy.
Yeah, I know he was crushing the webinars for the last, I think probably year and a half. I think even before
Yeah.
I joined, and he was doing a killer job, and the product's come a long way since then. Can you share with us just a bit around like how you structure your agency? It could be from like a technology wise within Synthflow with sub accounts, etc., or it could just be a more of like a business standpoint about how you work with clients, etc. I know we've got a lot of agency owners in here across a number of verticals. So, as one of the biggest users of Synthflow, and we can maybe dive into some scale numbers later if you're happy to share anything. But yeah, always great to hear our big partners' insights.
Yeah. So we've always been a done for you type of solution. We've never really gotten into I think we attempted it at one point, just kind of letting people go in and play around with their own sub accounts. But what I found is the voice AI, even just the voice AI by itself, not to mention everything else that you need to kind of include to automate a human role, it's not that easy, right? And I'm nothing against Synthflow here, but it really is. There's prompting, there's custom actions, there's APIs, there's calendars you got to hook up, there's integrations. There's just so many pieces to the puzzle that I see a lot of agencies even coming in, their first month, their first 2 months, whatever it may be, that they're still really trying to get a hold on it and trying to understand how it works and how to prompt and how to integrate things properly. Now, the way that I look at it is, if I go in and sign up 200 clients and give them access to their own accounts, well, how sticky are those people going to be? Because they need to figure it out, right? If these
Mm.
agencies that have already been marketing agencies, have already done, worked in workflows and stuff like that, if they're having a hard time kind of figuring it out and making it work properly, how likely are these clients going to be able to do it? So we've always been focused around a done for you solution, and really what we did early on is not only build the product that we wanted, right? So the omni channel with the voice, the text, the emails, and then obviously being able to perform actions throughout the entire life cycle of a sales process. But then from there, we went and built systems, right? We built systems, automations to be able to automate the onboarding process for clients, take care of the hardest pieces of the puzzle when you are onboarding a client. So the prompting, creating the agents, setting up the Twilio accounts, doing the registrations properly for Twilio so your numbers don't show up as spam. There's so many little pieces involved, even just with the voice AI side, that you have to set up properly for everything to work together. So what we did is we went ahead and built systems and implemented those systems to be able to automate around 90 to 95% of the onboarding process, not only for ourselves, but for agencies that we work with as well, to make it to where, you turn a 1-2 week, possibly even 2 month process into, a short 1 hour period to onboard a new client.
Hmm. So you're using synthflow not only for external clients, but you're using it for internal systems too. That's my take from that. Is that right?
Well, we're using it for, we use the APIs in our systems, right? So to
Hmm.
be able to create the sub accounts automatically. So, by the time the agency ever even touches the lead or touches the contact to onboard them, they already have everything set up for them. So, we do use Synflow's APIs, which we pushed heavily for this past year. Um, was to create the sub accounts, to attach the Stripe account, so the client's Stripe account into the sub account, so they never have to even access Synflow. Be able to go in and create the inbound and outbound assistant for every single agent, inject a prompt into it, and really just create that foundation automatically within less than a minute after a client fills out an onboarding form. So then now an agency comes in and they make a few connections, and then the client's off to the races.
Gotcha. Okay. So are you dealing with it in one niche specifically, or are you going pretty general? Or and maybe a second part to that, have you seen a particular like ramp up in clients from a certain industry? Let's say customer support was the most obvious one when voice AI got better. Have you seen any like specialization within your agency?
Yeah, so we're really more of the sales process focused, right? We don't really focus much on the support side of things. We're big on the sales cycle, right? So anybody, really any organization that's using appointment setters, or they're getting new leads in, they're having to nurture those leads, they're booking appointments or sending live transfers off. Those are the types of industries that we work in. And that's a lot of our agencies. Those are the type of industries that they work in as well. We have done some setups for some customer service stuff, but I like to focus on what makes a company money. I feel like that's a little bit more valuable and a lot more easy to sell to somebody than, hey, we're going to take your customer support calls, because that's not really generating money for the company. Obviously, if you go into a company that has 100 customer service reps you could replace, yeah, you're going to save them a ton of money. But if you go into a small business that has 5 people in it, and they're like, you say, hey, I could reduce your guys' calls that you get for customer service by a little bit. Well, is that really doing much for them? In my opinion, not. But if I could take your conversion rates and increase them, and automate that entire sales process up until the close, I see that being a lot more valuable to clients than just taking customer service calls.
Got it. I guess that means you'd be paying like a lot of attention to the details in prompting, as in language. Do not use these certain words. Do not use any more words in a sentence than this limit. I know that there's a lot of these little nuances that go into creating prompts. I know, and I've been testing stuff for Synthflow. For example, one of them that I found useful was keeping sentences short and then eliminating some of the words that agents or AI tend to say in general. Like delve is the most popular one, or dive into. Is there any tips around prompting that you found to make a real difference in your business?
Well, yeah, kind of what you were just saying, right? Do not say this, do not say that. What I found works a little bit more effective than telling it not what not to do is to take what you're trying to say, right? So if you're saying do not do this, and rewording that and then giving it clear instructions on what it should be doing, right? So we don't do a lot of negative prompting, telling it not what to do, because I feel like the more you tell it what not to do, the more confused it gets and the more it
Like a
ends up
child.
doing those things. so so that would be one of the first tips there. And you're absolutely right. There are a lot of nuances. There's a lot of things that need to be in a prompt, because you come in, and I see it a million times where somebody comes in, they create an account, they make they make a prompt, they put in a script, and they call it, and they go down the prompt, the question's exactly how they want it to be answered, and they say, wow, this is great, and then they go deploy it to 10,000 calls and wondering why they're getting no results.
Hmm.
At the end of the
Yep.
day, there's a lot that can happen on a phone call. There's a lot that does happen on phone calls that people don't really account for. So they go in and they test it one time and deploy it out to 10,000 calls, and then they're yelling at Synthflow that something's messed up, your system's broken.
Yep.
In all reality, that you didn't really account for everything that could potentially happen on that phone call. So over especially with the AI stuff over the past I'd say probably year and a half now, we learned a lot to be able to go in and add things to the prompt to make certain things happen. And we're actually ones to inject an actual script into our prompts. I'm not a big fan of just saying, here's some instruction
Yep.
on, make up whatever you want, right? But what we do is we include a little bit of letting the AI inject some stuff and then mix it with exactly what we want it to say.
Like
And
giving a
we
couple
find
of
that it works.
examples of answers.
What was that?
Like giving a couple of example answers so it can kind of get a read
No,
off.
no. So what we do is we
No?
put in an instruction before each script line that we have. We tell it to acknowledge what the user just said, answer any questions the user had, and then lead into the script that I want them to say. Because it does create that natural conversation to
Mhm.
where, the AI can actually go in and kind of acknowledge what that person's saying and then lead into naturally the script that I want it to say.
Got it.
So, what we found is, and me and my business partner Sean, we've ran call centers for many, many years too, and it's really all about the script. I mean, it really is. The people that perform really well in call centers are the ones that stick to the script, as long as you're with a company that has figured out their script, right? So
Yeah.
letting AI just kind of make something up every single time, I feel just doesn't work that great, in my honest opinion.
Mhm.
So that's why we actually feed every single one of our AIs an actual script to read, but we give it a little bit of wiggle room to make the conversation a little bit more natural. So
Got it. I like it. That's some good tips. How have you, when you were just, there's probably be a lot of people starting out, maybe at different stages of their journey. If somebody was making a move into voice AI now and looking to get their first like couple of clients and they're trying to deliver some voice assistance, what tips would you give somebody to start out? And while you're thinking of your answer, I think you may have prepared a couple of screens at some point, so we can hopefully look at a bit of your setup and some things that you prepared. But yeah, how would you get going if you were just starting out now?
yeah, I would say don't come into this thinking that you're going to sign up for an account, pop in a script, and deploy it for a customer and expect it to work 100% right away. I think what anybody coming in as an agency needs to do is have one thing in their head before they start: is how
Mm.
can I develop a system to onboard my clients and to make this work? You got to okay, what's your product going to be? Are you just going to sell it and say, hey, I'm going to put voice AI into your business? And what does that even mean? And the reason I say that is any agency that I've seen actually have success with this, it's when they finally buckled down, put together a system, got organized, that they started seeing success.
Yep.
So I would either one start with find a system that's already in place, or do whatever it takes to create your own. Right now, obviously, do you need a full automated onboarding process right out the gate? Probably not. If you just need to sign up your first one or two clients, right, you want to really first determine what it is that you're going to go after. But once you determine that, start building systems around it to where, you could either automate things or you at least have some sort of an SOP that you can go down. Because again, there's a ton of different pieces that are involved with it that that's more than just signing up for a Synthflow account.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think we had a conversation with Jake, who's another one of our partners in Synthflow, and he had a long background in marketing. So rather than just offering a digital marketing and funnels, etc., and acquisition, and he said when we spoke that it was adding another product and service on top of his existing business. He wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel and do something completely new. He took a market that he already knew and then just added in a voice AI solution on top of his knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, and I completely agree with that because again, a couple of the other or some of the other agencies I see having success and standing out because there's a lot of people in there. like we talked about earlier, creating an agent, making it sound really good, and then throwing up a recording on Facebook and saying that I have the best AI in the world, right? Because I created a really great demo. So the way to stand out in a market like this, where people are coming in, creating an agency account, and saying that they're an agency right out the gate 2 days later,
Yeah,
um, is packing on things to your offer. So marketing agencies going in and creating that, having the marketing, um, the marketing product or whatever it may be, the marketing services that you get attached to it, or if you're already doing something now, either attaching the voice AI to it or using the voice AI as a leader into your other products, to where you can now add more value than anybody else that's marketing an AI demo.
100%. I think one interesting use case I've heard of was somebody who spent a few years in the recruitment industry, so then they could build a recruitment focused voice AI solution and automation solution because they knew about the recruitment industry and they knew the pain points in there. We've got a couple of questions in the Q&A. Let's just answer those, and maybe we can then dive into a screen share, Scott, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll start from the bottom here.
I
CRM.
can put them on screen, I think. Hold on, let's go. There we go.
No,
Host
or
that.
that.
How do you control AI hallucinations?
So I guess let's define what an AI hallucination is, right? Are you talking about an AI going off track, or what exactly? Because I see so many people have different ways of saying, oh, it's hallucinating. Is it not following your script? Is it, um, I what exactly? If you could define that real quick, maybe we move on to the next question. Let him
Okay.
define that of exactly what he means by that.
And the next one we say, can you share your tech stack? This is a favorite all-time question. What tools are you using and how are you using them?
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was another
So
question too about
so we
CRM. Maybe
use.
you can kill two birds with one stone there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Go High Level, we use Go High Level for our CRM system. We have started implementing for custom enterprises that we work with some other CRM systems, but we mainly use Go High Level. It's really great at duplicating your work, right? So snapshots, being able to automate sub account creations, tons of different automations that you could do in Go High Level. Absolutely love it. Wouldn't change it. Obviously, SynthFlow we're using, Twilio. Obviously, I mean, everybody's kind of using Twilio. We use webhook.site to automate a lot of other things via APIs. For example, automating the Twilio registration process and sub account creation, which for some reason a lot of people can't really figure out.
Is that
We automate it.
webhook.site? Sorry.
Yeah, webhook.site. Yep. Yep. Where we
Got it.
create a ton of different actions, and obviously you need to be a little bit more well versed in APIs to be able to go in and run
Yep,
that.
yep.
It's not
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
drag and drop, And we don't
Yep.
use Zapier. We don't use Zapier. We don't use Make. We use webhook.site for everything, because really all Make and Zapier are API actions with a nice UI. Really, that's
Yep.
all it is, to make it easy for anybody to go in. But webhook.site, I think it's like $50 a month. You get unlimited webhooks. So we're not paying for Zapier and all the different actions and all the different runs you got to do with that. We actually use that too to make free call triggers outside of Go High Level. So instead of spending that penny every single time you want to trigger a call, we actually made it to where it's free. Little workaround there.
Nice.
And then being able to take post call information and feeding it back to Go High Level for free as well. So there's a lot of different things that you could do in there. And
Awesome.
then, yeah, I mean, I'd say that's it. It's not, we keep it kind of simple. So Go High Level, SynthFlow. Oh, Zappy Chat. We use Zappy Chat also for the texting and the emailing, and they have a chat AI as well. So
Nice. For anyone listening, just that didn't write all those down, I'll put them in the notes afterwards when this recording gets posted. So don't you worry. We got, yeah, let's answer a couple more questions. Then we'll go screen share and then we can catch up with any more questions after that. So we've got this one. How many files do you usually recommend putting into an AI assistant? So maybe this is probably to do with a knowledge-based question. So how much context do you give it? And
yeah,
do you
so
also, side addition there is how much info do you put in the prompt versus into any knowledge base?
yeah, so I'll tell you what, we actually do not use a knowledge base. Everything that we do is built into the prompts. We find that it performs way better, and if you can give it clear instructions, because what I see a lot of people do is they'll go take a website, a 50-page website, and upload every single page. They'll go take 100-page documents that mean absolutely nothing and upload it into the AI and expect it to perform really well. So what we do is we actually provide a ton of context. Our scripts, our prompts are long. They're not like when you go create a new assistant inside SynthFlow and there's like that example prompt in there. They're actually very long prompts. They're very long scripts for a reason, because we give it enough context to be able to have a really good conversation. So as zero files. I use zero
Zero
files in
files,
all my agents.
everything in the prompt. Nice. And
Yeah.
actually, Alex recommends that too. I think we are actually working on a new RAG system for knowledge bases, but I'll keep everyone posted once that
And
launches. So
and another reason I do that too is because you could also, it's easy to fully automate, right? I could ask my client, how do you want to respond to all these different questions? I can get
correct.
information about their company, their value proposition. I get all this
And then
stuff,
you can bring that straight into the prompt
bring it
dynamically from
straight
the
into the
onboarding
prompt
thing.
automatically. Yep.
Nice. I like that. So we'll do one more and then we'll make sure we get to all of them. So we have, okay. Are you using voicemail drop along with SynthFlow? And if so, how are you using it? I haven't heard of voicemail drop, have you?
Yeah, not I don't do that as a standard, but we do offer that service for clients that want it. So what you could do is, if you get the post call information and it ends up being a voicemail, you could trigger a voicemail to be dropped. There is actually one that I did help somebody implement. What is it called? Dropcowboy.com. Dropcowboy.com. You can throw that in the chat if you want.
Drop.
They do.
Dot com.
They have an AI where you could actually feed it information. So like Synflow or GHL, for example, you have to have a pre-recorded file that gets dropped on the voicemail, right? So there's no names, there's nothing in it, no variables to personalize it. So what you can actually do is take Drop Cowboy and use their APIs to feed a templated message, but then feed in some variables like the name, or you could even have AI generate, a voicemail for you based off of previous conversations the AI had with it, or the text message conversations, and have it create um, a custom voicemail with a custom call to action, and then go and drop that voicemail after they don't answer the phone. So that's another way that you can use
Nice.
that there. Yeah.
Like a tech stack tool getting drops that nobody's heard of before. That's awesome. Or a few people have heard of that people may not have heard of. Less common tools. So
Yeah,
do you want
there's
to
a
go
lot of
ahead
stuff you
and
could do, man. There's a lot of stuff you could do with this, especially with all the custom actions and stuff within Synflow, process payments. I mean, there's just so many things. The
100% when we've got the
opportunities
like a Stripe
unlimited.
integration, like when we have Stripe, I know that they recently released an SDK for agentic payments too. So that's gonna be really interesting. So do you want to go? Can you share your screen, Scott? Just make sure you got the right permissions. And
Yep.
then, yeah, if you've got any more questions as we go, just chuck them in the Q&A. And then, we can get back to them. But yeah, that's some really good tips. I haven't actually spent too much time working with voicemails, actually. Yeah, the custom actions are really interesting. If you can work with APIs and leverage custom actions in your voice agents, then that's just incredibly powerful, in my opinion. Okay, we can see it.
All right. So I think what I'm going to cover in the screen share today is really about kind of going back to what I've been saying the whole time: systems, right? Once you can generate a system and create a system, even if it's yourself, it doesn't matter. But I always see the most successful agencies have a system in place to onboard, implement their clients, and support their clients. So I'm just going to kind of show a few screens. These are sub accounts. So we have a sub account. We build everything, and you'll kind of see that here in a second. We build everything very modular. We build it modular because it makes it easy to train people. It makes it easy for agencies to understand. I see a lot of guys out there that are creating these workflows that are 50 directions wide, 100 directions deep, and you change one thing and everything's broken. So we actually build everything very modular like to make it super simple, even down to every single use case, every single campaign agent that you can ever create. We create them in separate sub accounts so they could be their own snapshots. So they're very easy to deploy, whether you want to deploy 1 or 10 or 20 agents out to a client. We make it as simple as possible. So Kind of going into our process, we have our base onboarding. So we have our onboarding that we run through that's pretty much automated. You get to a point now, kind of stepping back, all of our agencies, we go and implement an AI for them to use in their own business. I think it's important for any AI voice company to use their own product to display it before the close call, because then they can say, okay, well, hey, I got here from your AI, so obviously it works, right? So being able to take the close call, either send an invoice or send them to a checkout page, and the moment they pay triggers our onboarding flows, right? So the client will now have their sub account created. They're going to get an onboarding form that's sent out to them. The client would then go in and run through their onboarding form, fill out all the information we need. We'll have reminders automatically being sent out to them if they don't fill it out within a certain amount of time. So we're not having to bug the client. This is just automatically going to happen. From there, once they create that, we actually go in and register all the Twilio. So if anybody here has had to go in and manually do Twilio, you got to create the sub account, you got to do the customer profile registration, the shake and stir, the voice integrity, the CNAME. We counted, it's 8 seconds from the time somebody fills out an onboarding form. All that stuff's already done for you. We generate those A2P messages that you need to go plug into Twilio or into Go High Level to do the registration, so you're not having to type that out every single time. This will automatically create all those. We set up the AI calling account. We rewrite the company descriptions and all the stuff that the client gives us, because I'll tell you what, 9 times out of 10 the client gives us crap. So we take everything they gave us and we go in and rewrite everything to make it better for the AI assistants to be able to use. We go in, we add an AI user into their sub account. That's for another reason. Then there's a couple things that happen here. And then we have a way to kind of go in and update the sub account's custom values, so you're not having to manually copy and paste things into the custom values into the client's account. And then anytime a client goes in and fills out an onboarding form for each agent that they want to implement, we have a flow in here that will actually go in. It generates the entire prompt section by section. So this is not a template, right? It's not like a template that we have and then we insert little variables here and there. We actually have AI that generates the prompt and the script section by section. And then it goes in and combines it all together. And then it also goes in and creates an inbound version of that agent, because if you're going in and outbound calling people, you want people to be able to call back and talk to the same use case, the same campaign agent that you're calling out from.
100%.
So we create the outbound and the inbound version of that. In that flow too, it'll go in and create the agent or the assistant inside of SynthFlow, which will, create the inbound version and the outbound version of it. And it'll inject the prompt and everything and some settings, preferred settings in there to kind of make that simple there. So that's kind of the onboarding side.
Amazing.
We have an SOP.
Just pause you for 1 second. So what we're looking at here is inside of GHL, and this is like a step-by-step, like waterfall-esque series of automations, which just goes from one to the other when a new client gets on board. Is that right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So all this stuff's happening and you haven't, I'll tell you, I think it probably takes 3 to 5 minutes for everything to happen. And this is after they fill out their onboarding form, right? So you haven't even seen anything and all this stuff's already being done. All you did was send them a link to pay, and then now all this stuff's done.
Wow. So this is just post like any sales calls, they've signed the contract, they've paid you the first like upfront payment or whatever it is you've set up, and then this triggers everything through your system. That's wild. This is so insane.
Yep.
Amazing.
All right. And then
anybody ever have any questions related to what you've just seen? We have one. Can we see the onboarding add AI user workflow? We can come back to that at the end if you want. We'll pin this one. We'll remember that, and then we can come back to it if we can.
Yeah, and the add AI user is just simply adding a user into the Go High Level sub account. That's all it's doing. Because the way that we build these agents, since we are omni-channel, we're texting, emailing, and calling. We create an additional user inside of the Go High Level account. So when a lead comes in and goes through that specific use case, which I'm going to kind of cover here in a second, it gets assigned to that new user. So when that user, which has a phone number assigned to it and an email assigned to it, is texting them, and somebody decides to call that number back, it goes to the AI voice agent that's attached to that campaign. So that's really all the AI user is just an additional user inside of Go High Level. It's nothing. It's not like it's creating the assistant inside of uh,
Yeah.
SynthFlow.
Got it. Makes sense. Nice.
Yeah. All right. And then as far as kind of backing up outside of the onboarding, when I was talking earlier about creating the product that you want first, and then going back around and creating an automated onboarding, setup around that, right? So the way, again, that we build things, even down to our product, not just the onboarding piece, is in a very modular fashion. Instead of just having one workflow or two workflows that kind of do everything, what we do is each one of our use cases. So like right here, you'll see W01 new leads, and then back that's C01. That means campaign 1, campaign 2, campaign 3, in case somebody wants to run more than one campaign. They each have their own custom values, their own set of custom values, which we put in a folder to make it super organized to go through if they have multiple use cases and campaigns. But they have their own set of custom values that we then use inside of our automations. That way, anytime we onboard somebody, all we do is fill in some custom values, and then those custom values get brought in the automations instead of going in and sifting through the automations and trying to change everything inside of the automations every single time you want to onboard somebody. And then each use case has their own set of workflows, right? So we have like spam checkers. So we'll check your number for spam every single day. So if your number shows up as spam, agency gets notified. You can go in and change the number if needed. And then we have, the different workflows that we have for every single. This is basically one AI agent. This controls the
Wow.
texting, the emailing, the phone calls, the post-call stuff, all the outreach, the texting, the emailing, which we use AI to generate the text and the emails. Makes it super easy to onboard people. And then it also gives, just for example, if the AI was talking to somebody and they said, hey, I need to go to my son's soccer game, I got to get off the phone. Well, guess what? One of those follow-up text messages and emails, hey, how was your son's soccer game? Right? It's more human-like and personalized
Incredible.
towards that lead.
So you weren't joking when you said there was more to it than just firing up an agency account and you're an agency.
Yeah, totally, man.
Dude, this is awesome. I love the granularity of it. It's good. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, and then breaking it up, right? And again, I go back to, you can go create some massive flow and say, hey, look at my flow, man. I think it's really important to break it up into pieces, especially when you scale and you need to hire new people. It's a lot easier to train them on these smaller workflows, right? And what they all mean, and having some videos around that, which, we have our membership area that goes in and it goes through every single custom value, what it means, the custom fields, what they mean, the pipeline, the calendar, the funnels, all the automations, every single automation. So now if you have a question on one piece, right? Hey, this piece is breaking. Well, guess what? That's in this workflow. You go to the workflow, now you can kind of see exactly what's in there and what it's doing, right? So that's how we build all of our systems and have systems that's duplicatable, that not only for agencies that come on with us, right, but also people that we hire. We can give them this training, and now they have access to all this, and it's a lot easier to work with. So
you working with agencies too, as well as end clients?
yeah. So really, what we do, we started off, and we sold this system for small businesses to use. We quickly kind of went into the agency space, so we work with a lot of agencies, and then we focus now on enterprise level clients, so larger organizations where we're going in and doing custom work now. And it's great because once we got organized, once we had these systems, we have all these pieces. So now when we go into an enterprise level client, everything's not from scratch. We have the know-how, we have the systems, we have the pieces, and then there's some customization that we go off and do. And actually, what we have going on now is we're building a software that will actually, our voice AI agents will test your voice AI agents. So you're not having to manually call it and see what's broken, right? You'll actually just get a report what's broken, what you need to fix, and then you go and fix it and retest
Yeah,
it.
that's
And,
really good. Yeah.
so which was kind of the final
Very
piece of
meta.
that
I like
automation,
it.
right?
That's awesome. So if how do people like start working if somebody's an agency and wants to work with you? Like how do they get in touch with you? Is it do you offer a
Work.
product or is it a like a service? Is it like a subscription? How do you package that?
Yeah, just Workrr.ai. I mean, we have it as a subscription type of service where you can kind of come in. We actually go in and we'll set everything up for you. We'll set up your entire systems. We'll load everything in there. We give you all the training. We actually set up your first couple agents for you to be able to use in your own business. And then, you get your own Slack support and all that too. So,
Gotcha. Okay, nice. Do you want to should we grab another couple of questions?
yeah, go ahead. We can pop into some questions. I think,
Okay, so Andrew asks, what is the best way to go about integrating industry-specific CRMs?
well, I would say that you could either use something like Zapier or Make if you're not really familiar with APIs. I will say this, the custom actions inside SynthFlow, they're amazing. If you don't know how to use them, I suggest learning how to use APIs because it's going to help you out a lot. And it really just depends on what you're looking to integrate. There's, hey, I want to send a lead to make a phone call, right? That's going to be a little bit easier than, hey, I want to set up a uh, uh, custom booking inside of a custom
Mhm.
CRM,
Yep.
right? That's a little bit more difficult. You need to go into that CRM's API documentation and understand the API documentation and be able to implement that into the custom actions.
Yeah, I found when I was getting used to using custom actions in SynthFlow, what I do is take a couple of photos of the API docs I wanted to use if it can search internet, and then post like a screenshot of the SynthFlow setup, like where you create the custom actions. Even if you're not well versed using APIs, you know what value goes in where, and then have ChatGPT or Claude just tell you how to set up this custom action within SynthFlow, and it'll give you all the values and the headers and the keys and stuff. So that was a really good way to get going with them. But yeah, really
Yeah.
powerful.
And understand too that, it's not just inputting some values, right, with the custom actions, because every custom action is different and every business uses custom actions different, right? So somebody could be using the same exact endpoint, but have different instructions. So
Hmm.
what I find is you go in and you put it the custom action, which, by the way, even in the custom action, there's a lot of prompting you could do, but then you also need to go in and put prompting inside of the actual assistant
Yeah,
to
when you
be
bring
able
the
to give it,
variable in.
yeah, to give it instructions on what to do with that information. Like you could give the assistant a time zone, what time zone it's in all day long, but what do you want it to do with that time zone information? So
100%. We got a bit of a clarification from Jose about the hallucinations. So he said, for example, when a client asks for a legal condition and the AI gives him an imprecise answer, can you prevent it on scripts? Louis said, better knowledge base, more rigorous temperature setting, prompt modification, hundreds of tests. In other words, the answer is Workrr AI.
that's funny. So yeah, I would say that it is really all about training the AI. If there's specific things that need to be answered a specific way, you need to give it that information. And there's not, I can't say that there's one small thing that you could do. Because what I find when I've helped so many people with their prompts and their, like, hey, this isn't working. What do I do? And then I go in and I look at their prompt. And I'm like, well, you know what, man? I think it's just your entire prompt. And
Yeah.
it really does come down to that. I'm like, I don't know who taught you how to prompt, but
Yeah.
it's just not going
Like
to
a
work.
10-line prompt.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and restructure that entire thing. And then now all of a sudden it starts working, So, um, especially, I think you said something about legal, right? With the hallucinations. If it's saying something inaccurately, I mean, it's legal stuff that needs to be right. You need to train it and give it that information, and not necessarily just, oh, here's a knowledge base. Well, hey, if the
Mm.
user asks about this, then say this. If they ask about
Yeah.
this, say that. And if you
Yeah,
go into
exactly.
a company, they should know what questions they get asked. And a lot of companies usually have an FAQ doc or a rebuttal sheet that they train their humans with. So, I always ask people, well, what would you train your human with? And how would you tell your human to do it? That's how you should tell the AI how to do it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is there any numbers that you could share with other agency owners to maybe it's to do with workflows, maybe it's to do with client like pricing and offering. It could be anything from like a range or number of calls you're processing or anything that any additional maybe secret source or secret insights that you don't usually reveal to people on this call.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, in terms of pricing, because I get asked that all the time. How much do you charge? How much? I would say, for like a small business coming in, looking to get set up, it's anywhere. We have agencies that are charging anywhere from 2,500 to $5,000 for a setup fee just for one agent,
Mhm.
upwards of $20,000 for one agent, and then coming in anywhere around 15 to $5,000 per month, on a like kind of a retainer service, being able to use. Now that's coming from the multi-channel, right? You have the voice, the text, the email, and all that.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I'll tell you what, there's some stuff out there that are six figures, but once you get organized, once you have the pieces, is when you can kind of go after those types of clients. And I'd say more than ever right now, just with some of the enterprises that we've been talking to lately, people are ready. These enterprises are ready to make a move into using AI into their business, and a lot of them are actually really trying to replace a lot of these human roles, and there's a ton of them out there, right? More than I can handle, more than anybody on this call can handle. So I think it's important more now than ever to really get organized, put systems in place to where we could take advantage of that and be able to go in and implement these systems into these enterprise level clients for six, maybe hell, seven figures. There's plenty of stuff out there right now.
Yeah, I think there's any industry that requires people to either pick up the phone and make phone calls or answer the phone. That's the most obvious one. There was an interesting use case we were talking about the other day is all these additional all these additional phone calls that people wouldn't really like to get from a robot sounding voice, but might want to get from a human sounding voice, which are more like customer experience calls and check-in calls that normal humans don't have the time to give. So rather than somebody not ringing you to check in that you're still attending an appointment or still happy with the reservation, or if there's anything you want to change, just like a 20-second phone call, just say, hey, just checking in, just wanted to remind you you've got this going on tomorrow, just let me know if you need any help or is there any other questions I can answer. All these calls that aren't being made by humans because either they're too lazy or don't have time or whatever, this is also like a really interesting proposition for companies too.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, something that I learned along the way. There's a lot of really cool things you could do with this. And it's really easy to go down rabbit holes with other people that come in and say, hey, I want to partner with you, and I got access to all this stuff. Just do all this work for me, build all these things out, and then I'll tell you what, we'll be rich. Right? There's a lot of people out there that come in and do that. They're big dreamers. They got access to everybody. So it's really easy to waste your time and get stuck. I mean, I'll admit there's probably a 2-month period in the beginning of this where that happened. You completely lose sight of everything else and you start focusing on this thing that just ends up going nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to be careful with, oh, well, this is cool and this is cool and this is cool. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And trying to spend all your time on all these cool things you could do with it. Well, you need to monetize it. You need to make money off of it, right? That's the biggest way to get motivated to do more and create new things is to get paid for what you're already doing.
100.
So kind of coming up with something that that you're going to sell. Now, if it's something really cool that you think is going to be great and you want to build it and that's going to be your product, by all means do it. But just try to avoid coming up with 50 different things that you could do and trying to go off and build it and never take action.
Just get the first one done first. In relation to that, how did you get your first non-agency client? How long did it take? So maybe like independent business or enterprise. I guess you've been in this for a bit, so you've been doing
Yeah,
this
I mean, it's
since
kind of came
2020.
from, yeah, I mean, it was from past customers, really. That's really where it started. We were building out the voice bots, before the conversational AI stuff. So I think maybe that question comes from, hey, if I'm starting out, how do I get my first client? I would say if you're lacking funds for marketing, obviously marketing is number one. Throw up some Facebook ads; they're cheap enough. But if you don't have a marketing budget for that, I would go to something like smartlead.ai. You could use, I think there's a couple other services just like that where you could send out cold emails. Grab a list that you could send out to. They actually work better than you think as long as you have some good copy in there. And then, yeah, I mean, I would say if I was starting out again, I would start at cold emails if
Got
I
it.
didn't have any funds to market. If you have some funds to market, throw up some Facebook ads. Even basic Facebook ads work.
Mhm.
Ones that I think are crap that I've made
Yeah.
actually work better than the ones that I like. So, it doesn't take a ton to get started. I mean, even if you had I'm not saying that you could do it, but within a few $100s, you should be able to get some leads that you can work through Facebook.
Yep. Like it. Ben asked in the chat, how do you handle email for the omni-channel part via Go High? Or how
Yeah,
do you handle
yeah,
email for the omni-channel part? Is it via Go High level?
yeah. It's inside Go High level, but Zappy Chat is the one actually taking care of the back and forth. Yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. I want to be wary of your time so we can wrap up. Just the final question from me is like, what do you see is the biggest opportunity over the next few years of this? Obviously, everyone's now like rushing to sell these solutions or implement these solutions as a business. How do you think this thing progresses over the next maybe let's say 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot more adoption in the enterprise level space. Obviously, a lot of small companies want it. A lot of small companies don't want to pay for it. It's really easy to get distracted trying to sell to the people that want to pay you $100 a month for the service. So having, obviously having systems like this that can automate a lot of the setup for you is definitely going to take care of a lot of those smaller businesses. But I think you're going to see a lot more of enterprise level companies coming in and implementing these solutions, finding the right partners that could actually automate entire human roles. And I mean, I hate to say it, but there's probably going to be a lot of layoffs. There's a lot of people that don't like to work, that don't show up to work. And, I think a lot of these enterprises, at least the one I'm talking to right now, a lot of them right now they're hyped about getting rid of a lot of their staff. So
Mhm.
I think we're going to see a lot of change. I think even with Tesla robots coming out, we'll be able to integrate that into these processes too. So through via API.
100%.
Yeah.
Agree. Scott, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. We can wrap up. I think Scott's in the community too. So this recording we posted straight away, and then I'll fire it up on YouTube as well with all the links mentioned. But yeah, Scott, really appreciate it. Hope we can do this again sometime.
Yep. Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it. Thanks everyone. See you on the next one. Bye.